Hey guys, can we get like a little bit of I made you some room. I'm gonna be right here, and they're gonna be here talking. Ready? Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, guys. Let's get to it. Do we need this? No. You guys think we need this? Yeah. Irish Spring, can you hear me? Yes, sir. You can hear me just fine, can't you?
You just like technology. Is this better?
It's not better.
Ask the people in the
Who
comment
thinks I
section.
need the microphone? Who thinks I do not need the microphone? Guys, let's get right to it. I start every one of these things the same way, and I always go against what I say. I always say I'm not going to yap too much. And Miller, what ends up happening? I yap too much. Why? Why do I talk so much? I'm passionate, and the moment deserves it. Right? These things carry so much weight. So, for example, if people who are visiting, family members, from the outside looking in, raise your hand if you've ever had a family member do the karate chop symbols when you tell them you're doing jiu-jitsu.
My dad did it walking in.
Yeah. They really have no idea what we do. They don't know. Right? And like, we look around and we're so accustomed to it, but you're wearing a silly suit. We look ridiculous. Right? But we know that this is a tool, that within this thing, this is like this vessel that inside of which this magic happens. Right? It happens on these mats. It's very hard to explain, to describe to people. So I kind of gave up trying. Luckily, like Juliana showed up, and she does a good job with social media, kind of giving a glimpse. Just a glimpse. All you can offer people is a glimpse. Until what? Until they put on the heat. And then this happens, right? So we're going to get right to it. We're going to start with brown belt. And a big thing that changed for me is when you start to look at people in a brown belt as a black belt candidate. So the moment you put on a brown belt, it's a totally different animal. It's different than a blue belt and a purple belt. Those signify different things. And of course, black belt represents something very different. But this means you kind of did the work. Now it's only a matter of time. This is a really big deal. And especially within our academy, so young Jack, our academy is less than 8 years old, right? But 8 years for you is most of your life, right? But in the world of jiu-jitsu, 8 years, it's a blink. So we still don't have many brown belts. So with it carries a whole lot more weight, right? Like you are 100% a leader. People 100% look to you. It doesn't mean you have to be vocal, but it does mean that you have to set high personal standards. And you have to adhere to them, right? And that's kind of like something that we've really been leaning into lately, right, guys? So last thing I want to say about this is we have like a lot of white belts, blue belts, a couple purple belts, brown belts, black belts here. The white belt is a symbol of courage. The white belt is a symbol of courage. So if you guys have never trained, stepping onto the mat is a terrifying thought, right? It takes a lot of courage. Your color belts represent your growing confidence, which is directly linked to your growing confidence. You know what to expect. You're getting kind of dangerous, and you're confident because of that, right? And then the black belt represents what? Credibility. It does not mean you're invincible. As Professor Bongiorno says so beautifully, black belt doesn't mean invincible, it just means unbreakable. So they all mean different things, but it's all in the pursuit of making yourself a better person. So let's get right to it. I'm not going to talk too much about these brown belts, but I will say this. All four people are very well deserving. It's an honor to wrap these belts around their waist. We're going to start with one of my first students, one of my favorite humans on the face of the earth, super tough guy, Jimmy D. Get up here. might be hard to imagine, but once upon a time at the old location, it'd be me and my wife, Melissa, leaning against like the windowsill on that one, which was the only mat that we had, looking at the clock and saying, holy crap, nobody's showing up for class. You know, in those first few weeks. And then lo and behold, late as always, Jimmy D and all of his kids came in. We literally built the kids program off the backs of those kids. And I will always be indebted to you for that. All right, up next, another one of my OGs. Like, you guys hear me, kind of OG. There's OG and there's like OG light. Both carry a lot of weight in the academy. And you guys hear me talk about the OGs, which most of them are here today, which is incredible. I can't believe it. And because we wouldn't have this without that original crew. And you might be thinking, yeah, but I mean, somebody's got to be the original crew, right? And that's true. However, we lucked out, man. Our original crew just happened to have been some incredible people, right? So that kind of is what kind of like snowballed into what you guys see today. And we had like night crew, day crew. Everybody played different roles in there. And some of them are a little bit more obvious, some of them are not. Sometimes like somebody's really important role in the academy is they've got a lot of growing to do. And they've got like a lot of refining to do. And that's important, right? You need sometimes to have people who go a little bit too tough. And you guys have been around for a while, you know exactly what I mean. And it's really cool as an instructor over the course of years to see that person going from maybe being a little too rough for whatever reason, to just being a little bit more refined, and to being a leader, and to being a teacher. Like somebody who's really helping people out on that. The maniac, get up here. Something's wrong right now. We don't see a couple tears from a few different people. I have failed you guys. All right, jiu-jitsu, it offers us this really unique opportunity in our lives to do things that are difficult and to do them willingly, voluntarily embracing struggle. Right, Mr. Matakis? And that's the role of the hero, right? And it looks different for all of us. For some of us, it's fighting in a cage. For some of us, it's losing 150 pounds. For some of us, it's embracing this really difficult challenge a little bit later in life when most of the odds are stacked against you, a little bit smaller, you know, you're a woman and you know, you're injured and you come back and it's worth it. And then you realize like, holy crap, I'm very, very capable. Look at me go. I remember Jen's first class. Melissa, you remember that? So damn serious. I was like, why is she so angry? And she still makes those faces, but now I know that it's all just from like, she's so damn serious about getting good. She wants it so badly, and that's what that is, and I can relate to that. Jen, get up here. Let's go. I've got one more brown belt going out. To an obvious pillar of the academy, somebody who you can set your watch to. This guy is as reliable as the tides, right? As the sun rises and sets, there is Coach Allen. One of the most reliable guys, selfless guys you're ever going to meet in your entire life. And the thing about him is he's a stoic. He's like the prototypical stoic. And he doesn't have to say that to you, right? If somebody tells you they're stoic, they're probably not very stoic. But Coach Allen, as you guys know, like he's just embedded himself as a pillar in this academy. And he's become just somebody we all look to, right? And he makes us just feel, I don't know, I feel like cleaner when I'm around Al. I feel like a better person just for like being able to talk to the guy, right? So like he's a good mirror in that sense. Like if Alan doesn't like you, you should probably jump off of a building. Just don't hope for it, all right? So Coach Allen, get up. All right, let's give him one more hand to our black belt champion. All right, guys. Just a couple things about black belt. So, I'm 100% a man of tradition. Like I really like tradition and symbolism, and I think symbolism plays a big role in what we do. Like most of the stuff is just symbolic. It carries a lot of weight because we put a lot of weight behind it. So when I was thinking about what we're going to do with our black belts, because it's not just coaches. Everybody's going to earn a black belt one day. You're not all going to be professors and things like that, which is fine. So traditionally, red belt or the red bar on the belt meant you were a teacher, and professor denoted you were a teacher, like sensei does. And then what you see like a lot of the schools do now is they'll have black belts with a white bar, you know, which just denotes you're a black belt. Maybe a competitor or something, but there's definitely differentiation. I was this close to getting those black belts with white bars, and then it dawned on me, what the hell are you even talking about? You don't get to be a black belt if you're not teaching. You don't get to be a black belt if you're not giving back, right? So you're only ever going to see the red bar in this academy, because if you're not the type of person who is always giving back, you're not going to be the type of person to wear a black belt in my academy. And to go a step further, professor, we kicked around these ideas, like, do we call black belts professor just for being a black belt? Because professor really is teacher. And you guys might not know this. Professor Steve, raise your hand, where are you? You guys might not know this. When Professor Steve first came with us, for the first couple months, I called him Steve. I don't even know if you realize this. Yeah, I called you Steve, right? And the guys called you Professor because they're respectful like that. I'm not. But things changed. Watching him, it didn't take long for me to know he's a great guy, and that he does like carry himself as a black belt should. But when I would see what he would do after class, and like when he would train with somebody, a white belt, and not hurt them or beat up on them, and always give it back. And then you come in on a Monday, and one of like the blue belts is like, man, Professor Steve worked with me for like a half hour on this armbar setup at open net. When it was over, he was Professor Steve. So that being said, like if you're gonna wear a black belt, if I'm gonna wrap a black belt around your waist, It's because that you fill all these roles, right? Honesty, integrity, humility, harmony, courage, self-discipline, perseverance. Those are the tenets of black belt excellence in this academy, right? The people that are about to get their black belt, they have set high personal standards for themselves over an extended period of time, which is the hard part. We can all make that sprint, right? Everybody here can be like, I'm gonna lose 12 pounds for the beach. But can you, for 8 to 10 years of your life, hold yourself to a very high personal standard? Embrace these things that are so challenging. Play the role of the fool. Embrace the role of the fool. White belt mentality, right? That's what this denotes. All right, so up first, let me please have standing next to me is Brandon Heath. Brando was my very first student. Literally, like I was setting up the academy and he just walked in. Chubby Brandon, I have pictures. And he graced me with the worst 20 minutes of jiu-jitsu training I've ever experienced in my life. And I would like to say that Brandon came to me because I made such a big impression on him at headquarters because he trained under me at Ricardo's for a little bit. But the truth is, I think he's just so cheap that he knew that I would play less big a deal. But here's the thing about Brandon. He lives his life in routines, right? And he sets up these very strict routines because he pursues excellence. He pursues excellence physically, psychologically, in his profession as a cop, always going above and beyond. And on the mats. And although it takes him about 6 extra months to learn any technique, he learns it, right? And last thing I want to say about Brandon before I award him his well-deserved black belt is this. I mean, you guys saw me wrap a black belt around Battle's waist, right? But I cannot claim credit for John Battle. Nobody, like John Hassett, can't claim credit for John Battle. Right, so that battle came to me as a brown belt. Though I do consider him one of my black belts here, I gotta say I think Brandon is my first black belt. Right, like I trained him as a white belt. He's like the first guy I trained from white belt to black belt. He has more of my jiu-jitsu than maybe any of my students, and that might be because I've clocked more training time with him than anybody else. Sorry, Mchugh, you have been surpassed. Which says a lot. That says a lot, but it's not even close. It's not even close, right? My favorite training department. Take off that brown belt, sir.
This is crazy. It's powerful. It's powerful stuff. I just want to say, first of all, congratulations to the newly promoted brown belts. You guys are right there. The light at the end of the tunnel is there, and your time's coming. You're gonna be standing up here, so start preparing now. If I didn't write this stuff down, I wouldn't have remembered it, and I would have stood up here like an idiot. So I first have to thank my family for always being so supportive and everything, and especially my wife Ashley. it's pretty awesome when I come home from hard training. I'm soaked in 20 different probably people's sweat. You know, usually that's like a red flag in a relationship. It's usually at 9:30 at night soaked in other people's sweat. But dinner for me, and you just such a big part of my life, and you always say it's like my religion. So thank you for. Professor Pete and Melissa for hooking us up with this insane spot. I mean, the have locks on them, the locker rooms have heat. I just want to thank Professor Pete for being such a great mentor over the years, and now such a great friend of mine. You've done so much for me. It's really hard to put in words, but I truly appreciate all the advice, guidance, and excuse my language, the ass beatings. And all the embarrassing remarks over the years. I truly appreciate that. In all seriousness, you've created such a special culture here. It is second to none, and I think that's what makes this place so special. We have a wonderful building, but that's really not the special part, and it's about all the people and the culture that you've created. Everybody's just here to make each other better, and that's awesome. So thank you very much, Professor Pete. What means the most is that you know, you have the confidence in me to represent Mchugh Jiu-Jitsu as one of your black belts, and that truly is like the most important part. I want to thank my teammates. Without you guys, this is not possible, especially these guys. Right up here, man, we've trained for 8 years, beating each other to death, and it's been wonderful. I wouldn't want to be standing up here with anybody else. Thanks to everybody here has a role in these black belts. All right, even if you don't think so, you're a white belt, you're a blue belt. Everybody here has a role in this, and you guys will see one day when you're standing up here how important everybody in this place is. So thank you guys too. When I first started jiu-jitsu, black belt wasn't something that I wanted. And the reason was it was so far out of reach. When I first started, the only black belts were Professor Ricardo that I knew, Professor Dante, Professor Larry, and Professor Ryan. These dudes were some of the toughest dudes on the planet. They were fighting in the UFC at the time, and I just wanted to learn a few months of self-defense before I went to the police academy. So this wasn't even, I didn't even consider it. But once I started training for a little bit and I saw how special this was, and I was getting beat up by nerds and and teenagers, I knew if I wanted to really be a police officer, I had to stick with it. So I stuck with it until I was a blue belt. And then once I was a blue belt, I was still getting beat up by nerds and teenagers, and I realized that I really needed that this was something special I needed to stick with. But for those of you who don't know, jiu-jitsu is the gentle art. The gentle art. It allows a weaker, smaller opponent to defeat a stronger, or controller defeat a stronger, larger opponent using timing, leverage, and technique. And to me, when I first started jiu-jitsu, it was magical. It was something so special, and I still can't put into words what it is, but it's unreal. It's unreal, and it's like a superpower. We've talked about that before. It is like this extra superpower. But for me as a police officer, it is the greatest tool you can never take away from me. All right, it is a tool that continues to be refined, it continues to be sharpened, and it continues to be improved upon. And it is something I will do the rest of my life but it is something that I encourage all police officers to do because I think it's so important for the job, and hopefully it becomes mandatory. It seems like it is. This is the hardest and the greatest achievement of my life. This is a milestone in jiu-jitsu. However, it is a goal, not the goal. The goal for me is to do this until the day I die. Train every day. This isn't the goal. This is a great milestone, and I love it. But the goal is to be able to train and live the jiu-jitsu lifestyle forever. Be able to train my boys up here. And just some advice for some of the people coming up. You may feel when you first start jiu-jitsu, it's a lot of ups and downs. And I'll be honest with you, it never stops. I swear. For me, even for Professor Pete, when Professor Pete can only submit me 3 times in a row, he's having a bad day. So you're going to be continuing that your entire career, but it's great, and it's really good for you. And it shows you how to push through adversity, and it makes habits of being able to push through adversity. And then before you know it, it's like an unconscious habit that you just always do. And that's what's really special. Today is a day I will never forget, and I just want to thank everybody. So thank you.
Albert, step up, sir, please. Everybody has their own role in the academy. Everybody plays a different role, and they're all important. Some of them are way more obvious than the other ones. Albert's role in the academy is one of those very, very obvious ones. And if you don't know what I mean, let me tell you a little bit. Albert keeps me honest. He keeps us all honest. He holds us all accountable. Raise your hand if you have ever rolled with Coach Al. Hands down. Raise your hand if you felt good about your jiu-jitsu when you were done. So Al keeps us all accountable. Like, I don't get to kick my feet up and ride off into the sunset and protect myself in my little cocoon here. And I easily could. But I would hate myself for it. And one of the reasons I would hate myself for it is because a man like Al would not respect me if I did that. Right? And the days of me submitting Al are probably behind me, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to train him. The days where my brain says, don't train, we don't want to do Al today, are the days I have to train with Al. And I got to tell you, like, over the last few years, he's taken his own, he's taken responsibility for his own learning in ways like Brandon does it a little bit, but he goes everywhere. And, like, he doesn't even tell me about it, and I'm proud of him for that. And then he'll show up and be like, Professor, look what I got for you. Because he, you know, he cares about his growth. But it says a lot about him. And I got to tell you, every time I see him walk through that door, I'm like, thank God, man, he's still coming. He's still coming. Like, he doesn't have to be here. Like, he could be at, like, Henzo's in the city, and he would fit right in. Like, that's the caliber of jiu-jitsu athlete this guy is. I don't use the word loyalty, because I don't like that one, right? But it says a lot about, like, it's really reaffirming for me that a guy like Al continues to show up when he doesn't have to. Like, he could go elsewhere. It says that we're doing something right. Lastly, Al's role in the academy. Everybody knows, like, Al is the king of the well-timed joke. He's the king of, like, that stab, that poke. And he does it better than anybody because a few reasons. He knows a lot of Chappelle. But it only works because he holds himself to such a high standard. It only works because he understands decorum, right? Like, he holds us all to a high standard. You know, he shows up in the best smelling gi in the academy. You know, he doesn't show up on time, but when he's here, he's training hard. He doesn't take rounds off. He is the standard, and because of that, he has earned the right to throw in those jokes, and they work so well, right? So without a guy like Al, the academy has this big void in it, and I'm so happy that every time he shows up, it's like the end of Good Will Hunting, only in reverse. The kids are like, who the hell is Will Hunting? All right, so it means a lot for me to put this on. He's going to continue to hold me to a high personal standard, and I'll be forever grateful for that. All right, so let's give it up for Professor.
Last night after the brown belt, black belt crucible, professor left us with something to reflect on, which was, where were you at? How did you feel right after that first 6 months of jiu-jitsu? It's something I haven't reflected on in a long time. So as I'm thinking about it, and you think about the 6 months and then you go further than that or whatever, and I go kind of to blue belt phase, purple belt, brown. My wife. She's never asked me not to come. Never asked me to leave early. She's always been there for me. Sweetheart, we share this. Thank you. At these black belt ceremonies, I think it's more so towards the family and the white belts and blue belts, right? And what can we give you guys or whatever? And what can I say to you to keep you going, to let you understand that this is obtainable? You know what I mean? It's not far-fetched. You will be here. And one of the biggest problems is having to speak after Professor Pete. What can I say to you that he hasn't said or that he hasn't done, right? And as I'm thinking about all these things, it reminds me of a story that Jay-Z told about DMX. All right. So Jay-Z's talking about this story about when they were on tour and a concert, and he has to go after DMX, right? And that's my DMX, by the way. And he's sitting there, he's watching the show, and DMX is growling. The guys are going crazy, takes his shirt off, the women are going crazy, and then he stops and prays, and the entire crowd is crying. And then the stage manager looks to him and goes, okay, now it's your turn. It's after he took everyone through a range of motions or whatever, and it's now it's your turn. You go speak after people. All right, fine. So within this entire thought process of, what can I actually give to my white belts and blue belts? I'm trying to figure out, where I fit in, in my space, where do I exist at within jiu-jitsu and within this academy? And for as many hours as I've clocked on the mats with all these guys, I'm tough, but my jiu-jitsu isn't as good as theirs, you know? But the one thing that I can say is that nobody's gi smells better than mine. So for all you white belts and blue belts, okay? Go home and shower before you come to class. After you come to class and you're sweaty and you've done all these things or whatever, don't just hang that gi up, don't ball it up, just put it in the washer, all right? Suavemente. That's the fabric softener that you will use. Gain is the fabric softener, is the detergent you will use. And you're gonna add a splash of bleach inside. Okay? What this does, not only does it sanitize it, but your gi is gonna smell terrific. Alright? So, I've been called a lot of things, never been called smelly gi guy. Don't do that guy. Do not be that guy. Alright? So,
That is a great contribution.
Thank you. That might be the best speech.
with that said, to the coaching staff, to Professor Heath in general, one of the things I admire the most about him is just like his freedom. Like you guys know what I mean. You know, you see him come in or whatever, and no matter what's going on in his personal life, he's always been putting us first. You know, and it's that freedom of him just being able to express himself unapologetically, like that kind of like that bohemian type lifestyle. You know,
Because I wear flip-flops?
you know, but his unconventional approach to not only just teaching us jiu-jitsu, but ultimately for being there for us. That's one of the things that I most admire about you, Pete. Honestly, you've done so much for us, every single person in here, especially the coaches. But I always feel indebted, like you can't get back enough. You know what I mean? When you try, it's like, don't worry about it. You know, so again, you know, we're not going to speak about loyalty, but this is home base for me. Like I will never leave this place ever. All right. Thank you guys very much.
Surrounded by lunatics. All right. I don't know, anyway. You step up, sir. What did you say about Pete Lee? All right, I'll start with this. It's seemingly out of nowhere. Pete Lingesso has become one of my best friends on the face of the earth. He's become one of my favorite people. And it's kind of awkward to say, and especially in front of my wife, I spend more time with this man than any other human. My wife, my kids, my days are spent with Pete Lingesso. But I'm better for it. So I'll say this. I left the guys last night with a quote and a thought. And it was this, that, did Thoreau say this at Walden Pond? Most men live lives of quiet desperation. Most of us have heard that before. Most men and women live lives of quiet desperation. But not Pete Lingesso. Not Coach Pete. He lives his life on purpose. You know, like one of his favorite phrases is let's get after it. And he can't articulate what the it is. As we all know, speaking is not his strong suit. But if you know Pete, you know what it is. You know what it is, right? For him, it's getting after it on the mat. Like, he's training harder than anybody, even though he's the oldest person here. I know what you're thinking. You know, there are some people like in their 60s and 70s. He's still the oldest. He's getting after it, helping people. Like, he leads with his heart, right? Almost, not to a fault. It can never be to a fault, but he lives, like, his heart on his sleeve is an understatement for this guy. Like, I want to be like him. I never thought I'd say that. Holy crap. No, when I'm 52, I hope to God I'm moving like him and like I have the energy he does with no sleep and all the tasks and everything like that. I hope to God that I can touch as many people's lives as he does. And I know you're thinking, like, I probably teach more people, I probably interact with more people than I do. But he's the kind of guy that just any interaction is a meaningful one, right? And like, he's never in too much of a hurry. He's never too tired. He's never too sore, never too beat up, never too busy to have like an honest, present interaction with people, whether they're 3 years old or whether they're the oldest person in the academy, even if it's somebody who doesn't train. We can all learn to be a little bit of a better person by being around Coach Pete, and I think you guys can all agree with that. That's enough about your character. Let's talk about your jiu-jitsu.
Do we have to?
So if you guys didn't know, like, we call him the chair, the creator of chair jiu-jitsu, because we got done training one night and I said, rolling with you feels like throwing a folding chair down a flight of stairs. And not much has changed. But I'll say this, he's one of the toughest roles in the academy for me. He's one of my favorite training partners. And I'm impressed more and more by him as the years go on. Like, he's, dare I say, like a fine wine. He's getting better. He's getting better. And if there's anything I want you guys to take away from that is, like, at 52, most people have hung it up. Like, whatever it is, they put it on the shelf. Like, I had my time in the sun. You know, I had my youth. I had my adventures, my challenges. He's just starting. He's just starting, and he's doing more than people half, even a third his age are ever going to do. And for that, I'm very proud of him. And this is a great honor to wrap this around the true martial arts way, somebody who embodies the martial arts. So let's give it up for Professor Pete.
So, before I get to the meat of it, I'll be honest, I've been up since 2 o'clock. And I know I texted, I'd be lying if I said we haven't had a text string going for a few weeks now. And I was like, anybody sleep last night? There hadn't been a lot of sleep up here, I can tell you that. Well, maybe these guys, but I know he didn't. But there wasn't a lot of sleep. And there's a lot of thought process going in. I have to start by, damn it. But I have to say, they already cried, so I can let it out. I already, so you guys set the stage. 8.5 years ago, my wife said, hey, why don't you get back into training? We'll all go somewhere and train. So Professor wasn't around, he was still up at headquarters. So we looked around, went to where I used to train back in the early 1800s. And just monetarily it didn't make sense, so we ended up going to what was the UFC gym. So my wife, it's her fault that I'm here. My kids, you know, they, I don't know if they understood what was going on. He's going again, he's going again, he's going again. But I think they understood over time that this was not just about me training, it was about me on a journey for self-improvement for them more than me. I just wanted to be a better person for them, better husband, better father, better son, better brother, brother-in-law. And I love you guys more than anything on the face of this earth. And this is your guys. This, you guys are wearing this. Jack, you'll have this one day. You damn well better get one. Dennis, thanks for that video. It was awesome. So, this is you guys as much as me. Dad, this won't fit around you. I'm sorry. My father, I owe everything to. He's the one. We were getting ready for Mat 2 to open, and Professor and I were painting. I took the day off. It was my birthday, and I went over. We were painting Mat 2, and he goes, "Where did you get your self-awareness from?" Because I never bullshit myself. Excuse me, kids. I never lie to myself. And I said, "Well, I had my father who always told me." And Carlo and I were talking about this as we were walking the dog this morning. Never lie to yourself. Be truthful to yourself. Call yourself on your own BS. You've heard us say it on the podcast, or at least me say it. So, look at yourself in the mirror and realize what you're going to be. And he said, I'll quote almost word for word. My ADD was bouncing off the walls, and I was going, hey, my head was spinning all the time. And he said, he realized I wasn't going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or CEO of some company. He said, whatever you do, just be the best at it. Don't bullshit yourselves. Sorry, kids. Don't lie to yourself. Whatever it is, be the best at it. Be the best that you can be, no matter what it is. Garbage man, law enforcement, whatever I do. Be the best at it. When I started training in 1802, I didn't start training to get this. This was not on here. I never intended to get a black belt. Just wanted to train. And that's all I ever wanted to do was just train. So my advice to everybody would be, don't worry about the belts, they'll come. Just train, just be on the mat every day. Train as much as you can. And it's gonna happen. Don't lie to yourself. Just be the best that you can be, or whatever it is. I'm not professor. Well, I am professor. My jiu-jitsu is not going to be his jiu-jitsu. My jiu-jitsu is not going to be Coach Tony's. It's not going to be damn no, not going to be It's not going to be Brando's. It's not going to be Al's. It's not going to be anybody's here. Make it your own. I had to make it my own. As ugly as it is, it's effective though. I think a lot of people agree with that. And I don't mean to be arrogant when I say that, but it's true. This has been a journey, and this is just a stop on the way. I think Brandon said it, and it's perfectly put. This is just a stop on the way. I just get to add this to my sign in the basement, my jiu-jitsu sign. I'm very proud. I have to thank Professor Pete and Melissa, obviously, for opening the academy. The many lessons I've learned on these mats from Professor, like when he would look at me and say, really? Really? You know, what are we gonna do? I was throwing against the wall. I was hoping it was going to stick. But I had a time, and I don't know if you'll recall this, I know we talked about it before, but there was a time when Fight to Win was coming around, and I always questioned myself. I never believe where I'm at. I'm very, very difficult on myself, very hard on myself. And I asked Professor, I go, you think I can Fight to Win? And he told me, he goes, I'd put you against anybody, any belt. And that vote of confidence was very much like my father would say to me, I'd put you against anyone. And he said that to me, and he always has backed me. He's always supported me. He's always broke my stones, and I've always tried to reciprocate with some quality stone breaking going back. But we keep each other honest in here. We keep each other on a level that we can be better than we know we can be. That we trust in each other in here. And that's what makes these mats so special. I only wish we had leaking training or changing areas, stained ceiling tiles that doesn't split. What we have in here is special, and don't fool yourself. It's special. And the reason why it's special is because of you guys. Everybody in here is honest with yourselves. Everybody loves what we do in here. Everybody loves what we have. And that's what makes it special. And every one of us would stop what we're doing to help each other. From the boss all the way down to the little people. And I want to thank the little people. Angelo? No, I'm joking. There he is. The kids. I'll be honest with you, the kids, I watch the kids. I'm blessed to be able to teach these kids every day. And they motivate me unbelievably. I see what they do, the light in their eyes. It's Christmas morning every day they're on the mat. That's one of the things that keeps the fire in me going. And it's inspirational to be around these kids, you know, to be out there, to be at Nuggets, see Addie just go off and just unbelievable. Where do these people come from? It's beautiful. And I'm blessed to be able to be here every day, and I'm blessed to be able to teach every day. I'm blessed to get my butt kicked by you guys every day. And I'm blessed to be side by side with you guys every day. And I'm gonna be blessed to watch you guys get your black belts. Keep your head down, just train every day, and enjoy the ride, man. It's freaking awesome. Thank you guys.
Please be seated. All right, we're gonna do a little experiment. Clap if you love Coach Tony. Take a seat, guys. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to see if I was reading the room right, if you guys actually really like it. When I got my black belt, Ricardo said something that, of course, I'll remember for the rest of my life. He said something along the lines of, you know, Pete, he saw my future as Pete is going to find a way to make jiu-jitsu more accessible to people who currently can't do it. Something along those lines, right? Like, Pete's going to, like, go on to make jiu-jitsu more accessible. And I did. That was my mission. It still is. My mission is to make this amazing thing more accessible, where it was once exclusive. And at the time, I was the best kids instructor in jiu-jitsu on the planet, bar none, right? And that is the one thing I can hang my hat on. And then this friggin' guy showed up. And one of the reasons, I'll get to that, but I'll say this. Coach Tony is a better kids instructor than I am. Thank God. I'm happy that he is. I'm happy to hand that baton to him. He's the best kids instructor in the entire planet. I've seen a lot. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of the best, the quote-unquote best. None of them hold the candle to this man. And we could talk about why. Let's talk about why. Like, who is Coach Tony? Like, what do we know immediately from Coach Tony? That he is just all love. He's all heart. He's all excitement. He's all passion, right? And I mean, sometimes he forgets where his car is. Maybe not the best at like checking the voicemails on the answering machine. But Tony will tell you, like, I don't give him a tough time about stuff like that, because I don't care. You gotta let him go. Like, when you have like a stud athlete quarterback, sometimes you just gotta let him go, right? And that's what I do. And he has gone on to make jiu-jitsu way more accessible for, you know, especially kids and kids like that have special needs and special attention, maybe issues. Like he's gone on to do these things that Ricardo saw me doing, and maybe in a sense like that's happening through me to him, but he's special. I think we all know that. In terms of jiu-jitsu, in terms of martial arts, one of the things, Tony, he came in the first week. Like, he was one of my first students. And I don't know, man, it just, like lightning in a bottle. That's what we always used to call it. We had this lightning in a bottle, and we still do. Like, me and Tony versus the world. And I'll take us every time. In terms of, like, what we've built together, and we'll continue to build. But he lived his life very similar to mine. Like, he's a lifelong martial artist. Like, he's here not to be the toughest guy in the room. He's here to make himself better, right? He's here to live his life a certain way. And he holds himself to these high personal standards. And it's something that resonates with me. And it's resonated with me from the start. And, like, although the last few years our jiu-jitsu styles might have gone different ways, which is, you know, it's always bound to happen, he teaches more and more like me every day. Although, like, he does plagiarize most of my stuff, I'm happy. I can remember, I'll leave it at this, because you want to hear him, not me. I remember one time I was getting changed when I first started to really hand things over to Coach Tony, which I'm a control freak. Like, to have somebody teach one of my classes was like a terrifying thought. And I remember, like, I was letting him teach the first kids class. I came in like 20 minutes later, I was getting changed. And, you know, in the old academy, you can hear right through the walls. Because you couldn't even really call them walls, could you? And it sounded a lot like me. And I was blown away. And then it sounded different than me, but a little bit better. And I just, instead of being like the part of me that identified as the best kids instructor in the world, he was quiet. And the part of me that was proud for my friend and, you know, like my student, he was the one that was loud. I had the biggest smile on my face. And I remember like tying my pants, smiling and nodding like, look at this guy go. Look at this guy go. And then from that day on, man, I was promised you, me and you versus the world, right, brother? Take that belt off.
Somebody come up here and pinch me because I must be dreaming. All right? I think my wife's wearing my belt. I don't know. And I don't think a belt has ever been tied this tightly around my neck. I'll go ahead and give it to Coach Tony now. You know, I knew it was, like the clock was ticking, like me and Professor Pete, right? We've had countless amounts of conversations, like the clock was ticking. But once it was given a date, once it was written on that board, December 4th was the day, everything just hit me like a ton of bricks. It became very real. It became very concrete. And at that point in time, well, the first thing I did was went to the bathroom and threw up. That was the one. But I did a lot of reflecting, and I was plagued with all kinds of different emotions: pride, honor, humility, and also accompanied by, you know, some negative emotions, anxiety, all right, a little bit of self-doubt, like, did I do enough? Could I have done more? All right, all these things were kind of plaguing my mind, and I tried to sit down. I tried to write it down on paper just to get it out, and it was all mumbo jumbo. It looked like my buddy Coach Pete wrote it down. It didn't make much sense to it. But there was a word that kind of I ended up finding myself writing this word down about 10 different times. And it was a word that kind of stuck out above the rest, and that word was extreme gratitude. I felt very grateful and thankful for the position that I was in and the fact that I was going to receive this belt. And I'll get back to that in a second. Yesterday I talked a little bit about what black belt meant to me. And what this belt means to me is I made a commitment to myself, and only myself, over a decade ago now, to hold myself at a higher standard than most men. There was a saying that was thrown around yesterday, like we're uncommon amongst common men, or even uncommon men, all right? And I'm very proud of myself. But I'll tell you this right now, and it leads me back to the word that I just talked about. I could not have done what I've done and achieved what I've achieved and become the martial artist that I've become today without these guys behind you, all right, behind me, all right, or in front of me, all right, and the kids. I'm gonna go ahead and just, the only word that I wrote down was that word. And I wrote down the definition because I wanted to say it to you guys verbatim, because it means something to me. It's the quality of being thankful, the readiness to show appreciation for, and to return kindness. That word above the rest is really hitting home to me right now. Because without the 1,000 hours of foot on the mat with this guy, teaching, training, the hours in his backyard drinking whatever fresh IPA we can get our hands on, talking about this exact moment, without this guy right here, I would not be the martial artist that I am today. All right? Brando, where's Brando at? Brando, give me a sweet, buddy. Brando keeps me on my toes, I would say more than anybody else. I remember our first roll together. I don't know if he remembers, but I do. I was inside his closed guard, which, what do I call the closed guard, Abby? It's the danger zone, right? And Professor Brandon, all right, he showed me exactly why. I think he belly swept me, and I ended up in bottom out. And it was at that exact time in life, for the first time, I felt like quitting jiu-jitsu. I didn't feel like coming back. The guy keeps me on my toes more than ever, and I'm very thankful for him as a friend and as a fellow, black belt, person. All right, Coach Al, Professor Al, my man. So I have the words "technique conquers" tattooed on my arm. It's tattooed. It's there for life because I believe that technique conquers. After all, that's what we do here. We're jiu-jitsu guys. We're the smaller guy. The David can even the playing field with Goliath, right? Well, what happens when that guy has 100 pounds of muscle on you and he's just as technical as you? All right, I'll tell you what you do. You run. I can't even shoot this guy because he's a better shot than me. Thank you, brother, for everything you've done to me. All right. There are two people that kind of rise above the rest. That not only would I not be a martial artist if it was without these two people, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. And first is my wife. All right. Before this was a career of mine. I worked a normal 9-to-5 job, and I woke up in the morning and got my kids ready to school. I sent them off to school. I went to worked 9 to 5. Right from work, I went here. Well, not here, but at the old place. I taught. I trained as a student myself, and made it home just in time to tuck my kids into bed. That was it. That was it. And you would thought that my wife would have busted my chops, and she would have been very negative about it, and gave me a hard time about it because I'm never home. I was never there for a long period of time. She did the exact opposite. Right? She was very encouraging, very loving, very supportive of me, and kept on telling me that I was born for this. Like, this is something that I needed to do, and that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. So without her, this would definitely not be a thing. I wouldn't even be training jiu-jitsu if it wasn't for her. So let's clap it up for Jen. Next up is Professor Pete. My vocabulary doesn't extend far enough to put into words on what Professor Pete means to me. I can't even put it into words. he wears many hats in my life. All right, at a baseline level, he's my boss. All right, he provides me with the opportunity to do something that I love every day. He provides me with an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives, which was always so important to me ever since I was young. This is what I wanted to do, was just to make a difference. And he provides me with that. He's my boss, baseline level. He's a dear friend to me. He's my mentor, and he's somebody that I look up to greatly. He built this. Like, we're here today because of that man, because of Miss Melissa. And the amount of gratitude and just, it's tough. It's tough to even regurgitate what I feel about Professor Pete. Like, I look at him, I remember the first time I saw Professor Pete teach a class, and I shouldn't say see because I couldn't see very well. I heard him, and that's all I needed to do. I heard him. I never heard a man command a room the way he did. I never heard somebody break down and make something so indigestible, like to make it palatable for everybody. And from that day on, after I saw him teach that first class, I said to myself, like, this is the guy that I want to model myself after. This is somebody who I want to be down the road. And I can only help, or hope for that matter, to be a half of what Professor Pete is. All right? I thank Professor Pete. I thank Miss Melissa. Thank you very much, guys. The truth is this. All of you guys have played a role in my life in one way or another. You guys have touched me deeply. And I very much appreciate each and every single one of you. And we all did this together. And I cannot wait to see all you guys get awarded with this belt one day as well. Thank you very much, guys.
Black belts all got 2 roses, and they're giving them out to a couple of people who, like, you heard it. I don't even have to tell you guys what you heard in every single speech. And everybody got very emotional about it. This is a very demanding thing. Like, jiu-jitsu is a very demanding part of your life. And, like, why would you give yourself over to, like, something that's so demanding? Because it gives way more back, right? But the roses are to say thank you to the people who sacrificed by giving up time spent with us to let us pursue this very, like, individual thing, right? It's a very individual pursuit, but it makes these huge ripples throughout, like, the sphere of influence in our lives. Like, we become a better version of ourselves in here. At least you should. And that's something, like, I'm the senior students especially, like, we'll get done with a really hard training session. I'll sit everybody down and I'll ask you, are you better because of this? Like, how are you better? Are you better in the community? Are you better at home? Are you better with your friends and your family? You should be. If you're not, you're doing it wrong. Do it harder. Just turn the volume up a little bit, and then you'll get there. All right, guys? I think the last thing that I want to say is, you know, these guys all kind of touched on this, but it bears repeating. Like, black belt is the minimum goal. Black belt does not mean you have graduated. It's a mark of distinction. It's a mark of distinction in which they take pride, and they should. But they all already touched on it. This is just recognition of their credibility, that they've set and achieved these goals, that they can make and keep promises, right? That they can show up for themselves and their teammates over an extended period of time. But you're not going to see these guys slow down. This does not mean like they hang it up. This means they're going to go even faster and further. All right, guys, let's clap it up for them one more time. my least favorite part, trying to get you guys in position for a picture. We're gonna sit all the black belts up front, and we're gonna do like bowling pins going backwards, like a triangle almost. You should know what that shape looks like. Let's see if we can do it. Go.
Professor.
Well done. Brando, for the live stream, what do you want to tell everybody? Looks good on you, bud. Albert, for the live stream. Got that black belt. What do we got? Coach Tony.
This guy came into his own.
Yo. What do you want to say to everybody on the live stream?
Yes!
Awesome. Where's the old man? Live stream. Looks good.
Unbelievable.
Awesome. Jimmy D looking good.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the mats.